take these cards home if you like it. Okay, so we start reading it from the where it says Srimad Bhagavatam on the top. Dhatatma Purusha Krishna
Dhatatma Purusha Krishna
Padanolam Namunchati
Padanolam Namunchati
Mukta Sarva Pariklesha
Mukta Sarva Pariklesha
Pantha Swasharanam Yatha
Pantha Swasharanam Yatha.
And the translation for that goes like, a pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him, as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. So, we definitely had a troubled journey coming up here today. We drove for about 2 hours from Santa Clara to this place. So, most of you who commute to work, you know what it means to have a troubled journey. But as you face the various kinds of troubles as you are journeying, but when you come home, you feel a certain peace there, and also all the troubles that you faced on the way, you forget. Right? The same thing is going to happen with your devotional service as well, as you plan to go and find the absolute truth and try to go back home, back to Godhead. Then there will be some obstacles on your way, but once you reach there, you will forget all that you had to go and bear through. Okay? So, what is Srimad Bhagavatam? So, what exactly is Srimad Bhagavatam? Srimad Bhagavatam is actually a set of books. This is just one book that I'm showing over here. The rest of the stuff is out there beneath the altar. There are 18 chapters in the 18 books that make up this particular set. And constructionally, it's, inside it is divided into 12 parts. So some of the parts, most of the parts will cover a particular topic, and sometimes the topic is so huge as I try to describe it that it takes, that if you were to put everything in one book, it will become this fatter book. So just for the purposes and convenience of you being able to read it properly, sometimes a part is broken up into multiple books. So that's why there are 12 parts which are called cantos, and those 12 cantos are spread across 18 volumes, as you see over there. So when it comes to what are the topics that are discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam, so there are 10 topics that are there. Basically, Atra Sarga Visargascha Sthanam Poshanamutaya Manvantari Shanukatha Muktir Ashraya Nirodho Muktir Ashraya. So basically, the Srimad Bhagavatam is actually for everybody. If you think that it's not for me, it's for somebody else, it's a book which is for everybody. There's something in it for everybody there. And it starts with multiple things. Now, as people are progressing in their devotional service, they will be at various stages. There will be various rungs of ladder on which they will be as they go back up to Godhead. And so in the beginning, it talks about Sarga and Visarga, which is basically creation and sub-creation. So why does, what sort of a creation does Srimad Bhagavatam talk about? So it talks about the material creation, mainly, largely, how that is created. And then it talks about a sub-creation. So according to the Vedic philosophy, when things are constructed, we know from learning chemistry, how many did chemistry in school, high school? Okay, so you know that. So there's a periodic chart and you talk about carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, chlorine, fluorine, bromine, iodine, kryptons and all those elements. I don't know, I've lost count how many they are. When I was studying, there were less than 100. So anyway, so we talk about, things are organic or inorganic. They're made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. We call them organic, otherwise, they're inorganic. But when it comes to Vedic philosophy, we talk about the material world, it's made up of basically 8 elements, and 5 of them are brass, which is earth, water, fire, ether, and air, and 3 of them are subtle. There's a mind, there's intelligence, and there's the false ego. So we talk about, when we talk about creation, the first creation is that how did these things get created? So when we talk about, working on a particular craft, I'm going to make a painting, so we go to Juan Fabrics or, some Michael Arts and Crafts, and we go and buy the material. And then we create something out of it. So the original material is already there for us, right? But from where did that original material come? So we bought it from the trees. So where do the trees come from? They grow from the earth. So from where does the earth come from, right? So if you go back, then there has to be a person who is creating all these elements. So Sarga is that original creation. So it talks about that. And then there is the Visarga. That is, if you take earth, water, fire, and air, ether, etc., then how do you create things out of it? How do you create a human being? How do you create a peacock? How do you create mountains? How do you create rivers and things like that? So the question then is that, why does Srimad Bhagvatam, which is a book about God, why does this book talk about creation of the material world? If we are all spiritual elements, then we should be talking about the spirit soul, and we should be talking about the transcendental topics. Why do we have to talk about the mundane? And it spreads for quite a few chapters in this book. And the reason for that is that most of us are deep into material things. We like to enjoy material things, we like to purchase, we like to possess material things. And we are so deep into our quest for getting material glories and material achievements that we have no time for God. So in the process of, trying to understand that how these elements were created, and after these elements were created, then our senses were created. How many senses do we have?
5.
5 senses? Good. And what are those 5 senses? You want to answer?
Smell, taste.
Good.
Feel.
Smell, touch, feel.
Look.
You sight, yes.
And hearing.
Yeah, hear.
There's hearing, right? So there's taste as well. Right? So there are senses, there are sense objects, like, the sense of sight has an object of form, so I can see Govindas Prabhu standing over there, right? Sense of hearing, the object is sound, and so on and so forth. Right? So in the process of trying to understand how these material elements were created, and how the senses are created, and how our senses interact with the objects of the senses, and how we end up enjoying it, we will develop a detachment to the material world. Just as, when you spend like 6 hours in the kitchen, like if I were to ask Sarita Mataji that, you have been cooking since morning, do you want to eat that? She's going to say, nah. I've been working so long in the kitchen, the smell has all gone into my head. And because she has seen the process in which they are created. So once you go through the process and you are associated, you go deep into it and try to understand, how things are created, you kind of get detached from it. When I was young, I used to go to a shop which used to sell groceries and rice and dal and cashews and almonds and things like that. So I used to go with my mom, and as she would be, doing her negotiations with the shopkeeper, I used to just watch and look at the good stuff, like cashews and almonds and raisins and things like that. But the man who owned the shop, he would not eat any of that. He would go and eat something that the street hawker was selling. And what's the reason for that? Because he's dealing with that in and out. He's detached with the cashews. He's more attached to something else in the material world. So such is the nature of our mind that, whatever you have, it's fine. You want something else over there. And so Srimad Bhagavatam will talk about Sarga and Visarga. We'll go more into detail, like why, number one, is the material world created? What am I doing here? What are the characteristics of the material world? What are the things that happen always in the material world? Right? So if you look at material world, there are certain things that are common. Anybody wants to make a guess? What are the common things there in the material world? Happens to everybody? You die? Yes. And even before you die, there's something that happens that brings you into this material world.
We're born.
We are born. Right? And then?
Old age.
You age, yes.
You get disease.
And then in the process of going from birth to death and via the old age, you also get some disease every now and then. Right? So birth, death, old age and disease are certain things that are common. They ail us and we don't like it at all. We suffer it. And the wise people want to get out of it. Right? So how do we get out of it? So there's this creation. We have been put here for certain reasons. The good news is that we all belong to the spiritual world. This is a temporary place. Now the temporariness is pretty long, so it seems like eternity, but we're not here forever. We will go back ultimately to our spiritual planets from where we are originally, and the idea is to go back as soon as you can. And that is where the Srimad Bhagavatam comes in handy, because number one, it will help you get detached in a nice way. Now, getting detached from the material world doesn't mean that you will stop eating, you will stop, buying a big house, you will stop, wearing clothes and things like that. The true detachment is that when you still use your material objects, but you use them in the service of the Lord. Right? So if you have a house, like a big, nice, beautiful house like this, you will use that house to perform Krishna Katha, so that people can come and hear about the Lord. Okay? Similarly, if you want to make nice palatable dishes, you will make the palatable dishes, you will offer it to the Lord, and then you will distribute it to the devotees and then have it yourself as well. So detachment is not completely like, I won't even touch $1, I won't touch food and things like that. So before you get alarmed and think, what is she talking about? Is there going to be dinner tonight or not? Just wanted to clarify that part real quickly there. So atra sarga visargasya sthanam poshanam. So then there is sthanam. So sthanam is about, the good and the bad. Good is what you're supposed to do, and bad is what you're supposed to avoid. So good and bad are not given as, a roster of here are the good things that you do, here are the bad things that you use a list, you kind of go through it and mark checks on decided didn't do, decided shouldn't do, and so on and so forth. Now all these good things are actually explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the form of stories. Tell me, who doesn't like stories? Anybody doesn't like stories? But no show of hands, good. Right? So Srimad Bhagavatam explains all these details in the form of stories. And those stories, there are stories inside stories, and they will start with a conversation. Somebody will ask a very simple question. So it will start with that, how am I supposed to know I'm in this world? How am I supposed to know what is my duty? What am I supposed to do? Suddenly I find that I'm born, that I exist, and people give me a name, and this is my father, this is my mother, and my parents tell me to go to school and then go to college, and you get married and you earn money, you have kids, you have grandkids. But what is the real purpose of life, and what is my duty? Is my duty only to go make more money and you raise your kids and then send them to college? Is that it, or what is my duty? So it starts with a simple question like this, that what is the duty of a human being? And then more important, if you come to know that you're going to die in X number of days, like the doctor calls and says, cancer or something like that, and you have only 6 months to live or a week to live. In this case, Maharaj Parikshit, who is the hero of this book, had only 1 week to live. And so he's asking a very valid question, that what is my duty throughout life, and what is my duty as I'm going to die, for a person who's about to die. And the answer is very simple. The answer for that is that your duty throughout life and even at the time of death is to be thinking about God. Well, very nicely said, very nicely put, very simply put, but it's not that simple. Then there will be more question marks like, how do I do it? And as I try to do it, as I try to pursue devotional service, there are obstacles that come into my way. And how do I get over it? So again, they won't give you an answer. They will give you a story. That alright, this is what happened. There was a king known as Chitraketu, and he didn't have any kids for a very long time. And then finally one of his queens gave birth to a son. And then the other wives became envious. And then they killed the son. So now you will think like, so there's envy that exists in such places as well. And sometimes I feel that I'm envious too. Okay, so maybe let's see what does Bhagavatam tell us about envy, and what does it tell us, how does envy affect you? And then you also see that, oh my goodness, there's a king, number one, he was a king and he still couldn't get a child. He had so many wives. And then, once he gets a son, the son dies. So things like that can happen to a king. I am such a small fry that if bad things happen to me, then I should just take them along my stride. So when you face difficulties in life, and all of us face difficulties, anybody didn't face any difficulty? Ever? So you face difficulties, and when you're faced with difficulties, what we do is, instead of cursing and cussing and using 4-letter words, what we do is we take our problems and our difficulties back into history. And when when I say back into history, I mean that you go through the pages of the Bhagavatam, because somewhere in all the narrations that are there, spread across 18,000 beautiful melodious verses, this Srimad Bhagavatam will tell you the story of some king or some brahmana or some queen or some saint who faced a similar problem. And then from there you will deduce that, okay, they acted this way, or in such a situation they did not act at all. And then you know the recipe of how you are supposed to handle your problems there. Okay? So these are tried and tested formula we see. And sometimes Bhagavatam will also tell you what not to do. Right? So it will tell you the good and the bad. Okay? So very simple answer given to King Parikshit was that you should do devotional service, you should chant the names of the Lord. Hari Namanu Kirtanam, Ante Narayanam Smriti. At the end of the life, you should be thinking about Krishna. How will I think about Krishna or God at the end of my life if throughout my life I have been thinking about competition and my boss and my money and my stock and things like that? When you die, you will think about what you've been thinking throughout the day as well. Okay? So devotional service has to be performed. Now, how do we perform devotional service? I am in this material world and I get affected by the modes of material nature. So this material world, there are various situations or various consciousness that you can be. You can be in extreme goodness, I don't pollute the waters, I drive a sensitive car, I get up early in the morning, I drink, purified water, passing through a filter, and I keep my voice low, and I eat good healthy food. That is mode of goodness, or which is known as sattva in Sanskrit. So you could be in the mode of goodness. And then the next one is the mode of passion, which is, an intense greed, an intense activity that you want to do. And then there is ignorance, when you just don't want to do it. For example, like, you're sitting here lounging in the sofa, and you come back from office, you kick off your shoes, one shoe is over there, one shoe is over there. Then you take off your sock, and your mom comes and tells you that, pick up the sock and put it in the laundry. And you pass by the sock, 6 times, going up, coming down, the sock still lies there 7 days. Still the mom picks it up. That's the mode of ignorance. So when people perform devotional service, they can do devotional service also in these 3 modes. There can be devotional service in the mode of ignorance. There can be devotional service in the mode of passion. There can be devotional service in the mode of goodness as well. So Srimad Bhagavatam will talk about the cantos. The first 2 cantos basically talk to you about creation, universal form of the Lord, so on and so forth. How does creation happen? Who's the creator? Who's Brahma? What are the various kinds of Vishnus which are there? And then this common question always comes across India, that who's Vishnu and who's Krishna? And who is bigger of the two? So Bhagavatam will answer that question very, and put it forward in a very simple way. And also when we talk about Bhagavatam, people know that Bhagavatam has got Ras Leela, the dances that Krishna does. And I want to know what happened in the dance. I want to know what the gopis were doing, running away from the home in the dead of the night, leaving their husbands behind and going and meeting Krishna. But before you can go and jump to that, which is actually the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to first come to the conclusion that Krishna is God, right? And to do that, you have to first understand the magnificence of his creation, because that's the thing that we can interact with our gross senses. We can't see Krishna, we can't see the soul. But we do see rivers, we do see mountains, we can look through a microscope and look at the beauty of the organisms, look at the cell, we can look at beautiful flowers, we can do all that, right? And slowly, when all this happens, you will gradually get turned towards Krishna. The idea is that if you are looking for Krishna in various things, for example, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the taste of water. So when you're drinking water, you can think about God, right? Or I am the warmth of the sunshine, or the light that comes from the moon. So next time you see the moon, you can think about God, like that. So the idea is that as you interact with various things, you can think about God. You see somebody very beautiful, you think about God. You see a very intelligent creation, like the iPhone, you think about God, like that, right? So when it comes to devotional service, like I was saying, that we don't jump to the 10th canto where all the Ras Leela is defined. We will slowly progress through it. So having understood the material world in canto 1 and 2, then 3 and 4 will tell us about the various kinds of devotional service, where we find Kapil Muni. It gives a nice discourse to his mother, actually, which is Devahuti. And in that sense, Bhagavatam has got certain things which are out of the box. For example, we always know that parents teach the kids. But here is Kapil Dev, he's teaching his mom. right? Or Prahlad Maharaj, he gives lectures to his dad. Right? We also know that demons are bad and demigods are good. But when you hear about what Indra, the demigod, is up to, you will like, is that what demigods do? Or if you hear the story of Vritasura, who was a demon in one of his births, then you'll be very surprised. Or Prahlad, who was born in a demon family. Okay? So Bhagavatam will have those kind of sort of controversial or out of the box kind of things there as well. So it'll walk you through the story of Daksha, who is a progenitor. His job is to increase the population of this world, and he's involved in the original creation as well. And he does devotional service in complete mode of ignorance. He has a big fight with Shiva, and there are curses and counter curses, and then ultimately his head gets cut off and gets replaced by a goat's head, and there's a lot of philosophy behind that as well. And he was doing it, without any regard to Shiva, without any concerns. He was only concentrating on himself. His devotional service, he was still doing devotional service. He is a devotee of the Lord, but he's kind of misguided. His devotional service is in the mode of ignorance. Then Srimad Bhagavatam will also walk you through and take you to devotional service in the mode of passion, where you do devotional service to Krishna because you want something out of it. And that type of devotional service was performed by Dhruva Maharaj. But he wanted, what did Dhruva Maharaj want? Anybody know what Dhruva Maharaj's story?
Kingdom bigger than his dad.
He wanted a kingdom bigger than his dad. Not only dad, he wanted a kingdom bigger than his granddad. And his granddad is Brahma, who owns this entire universe. So talk about thinking about the box. This man was completely, look at the ambitions. Yeah, he was at the 80,000 feet ambition level. So he wanted a kingdom better than his God. And a 5-year-old kid, Dhruva was a 5-year-old kid, but he performed a devotional service for 6 months, and he got the Dhruva planet, which is a planet that doesn't get destroyed. It's beyond this material world. He got something like that. But he was asking things for himself. So when he started devotional service, he was wanting things for himself. He was in the mode of passion. But when he sees Krishna, finally, when he sees God finally, then his mood changes. And that is the effect of Krishna on you. That you could start from the mode of passion, but ultimately you will see that you are transformed. And then we have devotional service in the pure mode of goodness. Pure mode of goodness was done by Prithu Maharaj. He's an incarnation, Saktavesh avatar of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He comes here, and his job is to set things right. And he was trying to do Ashwamedha Yajna. Ashwamedha Yajna is very, very expensive, very detailed, a very long yajna that you do, sacrifice that you do. And after you do 100 such sacrifices, you get the position of Indra. So obviously when he was doing this sacrifice, Indra got worried. And so he came and started, to mess around with his sacrifice. And he did his sacrifice 99 times, but as soon as he was going to do the 100th time, Indra put all kinds of obstacles in his way. But then Lord Vishnu comes and explains to Prithu Maharaj, and he says that, don't do that, because you are trying to just get that 100. Instead of 99, be satisfied with 99. Don't go for the 100, because in the process of trying to go for the 100, you are making Indra do all kinds of bad things. And so you have come here to establish religion, but you're actually, encouraging irreligion on the part of Indra. And Prithu Maharaj agreed. He listened to that and he agreed to it. And in so doing, Prithu Maharaj, who could have reached the position of Indra by performing the 100 yajnas, by doing that sacrifice for the Lord, he became even more famous than Indra. But today we have a whole chapter, whole canto, large part of Canto 4 is actually dedicated there. So it talks about doing good and doing bad. Then canto number 5 is for those who like to know more about this material world. You want to know more about what you have got into, and you want to have variety, right? Should I have silk, or should I have cotton, or should I eat rasgullas, or should I eat, bananas, or what? So it will tell you everything about this material world, all the planetary systems which are there, 14 types of planetary systems. Some are very opulent, some are dark, some are more meant for devotional service and things like that. The 5th canto will tell you about that. The 5th canto is also a good canto because it describes all the hellish planets. Believe me, after I read 5th canto, I ran to the temple. Before that, I was not coming to the temple because I had no idea. I had a vague idea about hellish planets, but they were not so graphically described there. It's really an eye-opener. If you haven't read that, I would encourage you to read 5th canto. Then Snanam, so this was good and bad. Poshanam is actually mercy of the Lord. The 6th canto will talk about mercy of the Lord. And primarily we come across the story of Ajamila, who was a very sinful man, but to the mercy of the Lord, because when the time came for him to die, and when the Yamdutas, he saw the Yamdutas coming, ferocious people, he called out for his son, Narayan. And his son was Narayan, but because he uttered the name of the Lord, he ultimately, went to God, and he was not punished like that. So we have Sthanam, Poshanam, and then we have Uteya, which is, trying to create things, the more of passion. So there will be a lot of, descriptions about the Grihastha Ashram, Varna Ashram, and so on and so forth are also described over here. And then we have the various Manus, the father of the mankind. So Manvantaras are also described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we have Ishanukatha, that is stories of the Lord. So entire incarnation of Ramchandra is described there. Then we have Nirodha, which is destruction. So it will talk about various kinds of destructions, destructions that happen daily, destructions of the planetary systems, destructions of your projects, destructions of your ambitions, destructions of your ideas, destruction of your false ego, destruction of your attachments. So various kinds of destructions are described over here. So Nirodho, and then Muktir. Muktir is, liberation. So how do you get liberation? And what exactly is liberation? Various types of liberation that you get, and the ultimate liberation, which is not mukti, but which is vimukti, by which you go back to the Golok Vrindavan planets. It also has Krishna instructing Uddhava. It has got the Uddhava Gita inside it, where more information is out there on how to handle life. There are the Nav-Yogendras who will be describing to Maharaja Nimi, and in that also there are stories inside stories. And the 12th canto is actually will tell you more glories about Srimad Bhagavatam. It will also tell you about the Kali Yuga, which is the millennium in which we are now living. This age in which we are living, what are the characteristics of this age and how you should be avoiding this particular age. So 18,000 beautiful verses. Srimad Bhagavatam is also known as Mahapuran, and it is historical. It's facts, they are true stories which are listed over here. And it is different from the Vedas. Like most of you are from India, so you know that we always talk about should I read the Bhagavatam or should I read the Vedas? Okay? So if you got a Bhagavatam in your home, like Sarita Mataji and Rajpur, we have a Bhagavatam in their home, and I don't see any Rig Veda, Ram Veda, Ajur Veda, any of those Vedas over there. And that is because if you get a Bhagavatam in your home, you have already read the Vedas in your previous life. So Vedas are primarily helpful for materialistic gain. And Srimad Bhagavatam is Amal. It doesn't talk of any of the materialistic gain kind of things. So Bhagavatam will not tell you how to get a beautiful wife, what you get to perform to get a promotion or anything like that. But it will tell you how to do pure devotional service of the Lord. But it has the story of Dhruv Maharaj, who went for a pure materialistic reason, and he wanted to get a kingdom greater than the Lord Brahma. And when he looked at Krishna, he said, no, now I have seen the diamond, which is you. I don't want the glass pieces. But guess what? Krishna still gave him the glass pieces as well. And the crux is that if you do devotional service, then as a default, as a byproduct, you will get material opulence as well. But because you're a devotee of the Lord, you will be able to use all that material opulence in the right way. Otherwise, you see, this is a land of plenty here in America, and how much of misuse is there, right, of the same things which are there. So, with that said, I will stop here, and if there are any questions, I'll be willing to answer them here. Plus, again, during the prasadam, we'll do this too. So, any questions? Any comments? We actually, while you're thinking and forming your questions, I just wanted to let you know that Govinda Das Prabhu, he conducts kirtans in every town and village of the Silicon Valley, because that is what the Yuga Dharma is. The Dharma of this Kali Yuga is not to perform yagyas, because number one, we don't have the knowledge to perform yagyas, we don't have the right ingredients, and we don't even have knowledgeable priests who can pronounce Sanskrit in the right way. for your sacrifice to be performed rightly. So we just do Kirtan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So he does that. And then we are from ISKCON of Silicon Valley, and we are based in Montreal. And if you think that it's very far off, then there are quite a few families who go from here at least 3 times a day. Hare Sankirtan is one of them. And so you can always hitchhike a ride. Plus we also have other home programs, multiple home programs that are conducted in Pleasanton, in Dublin, in San John as well. And plus we broadcast all our programs over the internet. So we are very tech savvy people. If you come to Mountain View, the average designation is software engineer. So a lot of them are there, and so we have got a wonderful broadcasting system. We record all our programs. You can listen to them at leisure. You can ask questions. You can text your questions on WhatsApp groups. You can dial in and everybody will hear the answers to those questions as well. We do a lot of book distribution because we strongly believe that books change life. My life itself was changed by virtue of a book somebody distributed, gave me a Bhagavad Gita actually. I read that and it completely changed my life over a period of 7 days. It was much later that I read the Bhagvatam and I came to know that Parikshit Maharaj had only 7 days to live, and I was like, wow, I utilized my 7 days in a very nice manner. Just reading the Bhagavatam non-stop.
Can you share that free and fast about here?
Do you want my past life?
No. Just to give the glimpse.
Just to give the glimpse of the past life? Okay. So in my past life, which was my first 10 years here in USA, I came here at the age of 36, and I used to work very hard, and in that process of trying to, again, I didn't mind if I have to climb over other people's shoulders to reach on the top. I used to enjoy everything which was very, very fine, expensive, and if somebody had something, I wanted to have something better than that. I used to enjoy food and enjoy inviting people to have food at our place. It was never offered to the lordships. It was never prasadam, never even prasadam quality. And I used to hoard like 1 dinner set, 2 dinner sets, 3 dinner sets, sitting there in the box, not even opened, and hundreds of spoons and things like that, and saris, innumerable jewelry. I used to do all that. And then, after you do all that, then you become a size 18, 20, something like that. So I had a very dear friend, both of us then decided, and we said, let's get and become a size 8. There are so many cute dresses which are there, which are never available in a size 20, and we wanted to get into those. So we decided to go and take a yoga class, unknowing that what yoga can do to you. So for 6 months I went and attended a yoga class, did not know anything like that. And then the last day that my yoga class ended, I was actually invited by, it was also the day that my daughter had graduated, and we were invited by her fiance's parents to their home. And I went there, and I found that my daughter, I have an only daughter, and I have a son adopted here. And so she was very, very happy in her, would-be home. And her in-laws, she married an American boy, and her in-laws were very, very loving. And I was like, for me, it was a dream come true. That your daughter, she's going to be married in a family that simply adores her. And so I came back home very happy, very satisfied, and I was sitting and I was just thinking, oh, so they're going to get married, and planning in my head. This will happen, that will happen. And then they'll get married, they'll have kids, and then I'll have grandkids. And then the question came to my mind, what next? And then it was like, yeah. So that was the beginning of, the asato brahma jigyasa. Now that you have got a human body, you should ask this question, that why did I get a human body? Why am I not a dog or a donkey or a horse or something like that? What is the purpose of human life? The purpose of the human life is to inquire and find out about God. And then magically, the very next day in my office, a lady appeared and she came to my room. I knew her, but we never, she never used to come to my office, or we used to say just hello, goodbye in the elevator and that kind of a friend. And she came and she talked to me a lot about God and godly things, and then one thing led to another. She invited me to her home, and then her sister said, that you have read the Bhagavad Gita. Like, no, just read it once and didn't understand. It was in Hindi. She said, oh, you should read Bhagavad Gita as it is. Get it from ISKCON. I'm like, ISKCON, those Hare Ramas. My mom had absolutely forbidden me from doing anything with Hare Krishna when I was 13 because their idea of Hare Krishna was, ganja and hippies and things like that. And I had no idea. And this was a Friday that we were having this conversation. And then I came back home, I surfed the internet, couldn't find anything, couldn't find Bhagavad Gita as it is. I was very bad at surfing the net anyway. And so the very next day I went to an Indian grocery shop and there I was with my husband and my daughter, and I don't know what happened. I was standing in the back of the shop, and my husband's in the front, and he was ready to, get everything doing at the counter. And then suddenly I said, I will pay for the grocery. And I took out my credit card and gave it to my husband. And he went there, and I was still looking at, what more can I buy, sort of thing. And so the cashier called me to sign on the credit card bill. So I went there to sign, and as I was signing, from my peripheral vision, I saw a Bhagavad Gita kept like this, erect, top, standing on the counter. And I was like, oh, Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so let me ask him if he's going to sell the Bhagavad Gita. He said, no, I don't sell the Bhagavad Gita. It's a sample. So I said, will you sell the sample to me? He said, okay, $20. I took out $20 cash. Gave it to him. And I came back home, and then I opened Bhagavad Gita, and I realized, oh, it's the Bhagavad Gita as it is. I did not even know. I did not even make any efforts. So Bhagavad Gita came on its own to my place, to my home. And then that night I sat down to read. And you will not believe I did not go to sleep that night. I read the Bhagavad Gita the whole night because it is so engaging, especially the one written by Prabhupada, translated so beautifully into English. The whole night. At 6 o'clock in the morning I went to sleep, woke up at 8 o'clock, sent my husband to office and things like that. And then I started reading it again and again. For 7 days, I just sat and read that. And somewhere in the middle I said, let me find out about the person who has translated this into English. And I came to know about Prabhupada and how he came to USA at the age of 69 and to teach this gospel to the Americans here and to the Westerners. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada said that Hindus, maybe Indians, we get up in the morning and we don't even eat anything, we don't even cook anything before taking a shower. And I'm like, oh, I have such a loving husband, he brings me breakfast in the bed. So then slowly I started realizing that there are so many things that I'm not doing, there's so much of cleansing that I have to do. And that's why I picked up this particular verse which says Dhatatma. Dhatatma means washed. So then that washing started to happen by virtue of reading this Bhagavad Gita. Then I started reading the Bhagavad Gita. And once you read this Bhagavad Gita, now you found a good recipe, now you want to share it with others. So I wanted to then share, and I started talking about it at my offices. And that's the best thing that you can do. All of us go to office, there are people over there, and there are miserable people at home. And to get out of that system of being in and I was working in a corporation, which means it was even more madness over there. So to get out of that cycle and to really do what human life is supposed to do, you should be reading these scriptures. And we being Indians, we actually have got this responsibility also, coming from that place and have gotten that as a cultural momentum, to spread this Bhagavatam to as many and to preserve this Vedic culture. So we have a Matsya project by which we do two things. One is that we do a mass distribution of these books. So we want as many people, if you don't have a Bhagavatam set with you at your home, sign up for that. It will be the best investment that you will do. It doesn't cost more than 2 visits to the restaurant. You spend more than that. But you will get a Bhagavatam which will be for your life. And the paper on which this Bhagavatam is printed lasts for 500 years. So it is many generations that will get taken care of and will get there. So mass distribution and mass education. The mass education. You get this book, you need to have a jump start. You need to be kick-started onto that. There are so many questions that you will have. So we conduct classes, and that's why Govindas Prabhu conducts this kirtan. So that's one way of getting into it, sets the mood, then we talk to to you about the Bhagavatam. And then you will have more questions. So you can come to the temple to attend classes, you can listen to them online. There's so many online lectures by others. And then I conduct classes, one-on-one, answer questions one-on-one, then I conduct classes on Bhagavatam. So from a person who was hoarding so much, I actually gave away all my things that I had at my home to people. And one of my friends actually came, the one with whom I went to do yoga. And by the way, I did become a size 10. But by the time, the lure of fashionable clothes had left me. And I just realized that even just, saying a Om that I used to do at the end of every yoga class had the effect on me. So that's so powerful is the name of the Lord. So let us just, today, since you have come here, you made the right decision of spending your Friday evening sitting on a roof and discussing Krishna Katha, that, you should take on this book and decorate your home and your life with this wonderful scripture. Would you like to add something? I took more than the 30 minutes that you did. What's next? More Kirtan?
Yeah, we'll continue with Kirtan. And then we'll line up in